Welcome to another AdWest Marketing case study. Hi there, my name is Jeff Beardsworth and I'm the Advertising Director for AdWest Marketing. As some of you may already know, we are the marketing bureau for community newspapers on the prairies. Our job is to make your life easier when it comes to planning community newspaper campaigns. A lot of the products and services that we've developed over the course of the last year are heavily reliant on GIS and GIS technology. What we want to do is give agencies the ability to draw a very tight correlation to the information that's coming to them from their clients and the community newspaper options that are available in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. The story that I want to share with you today, I think, does a pretty good job of explaining exactly how we're able to do this. In this particular case, we were working with the agency and their client, a large agricultural chemical manufacturer. The main products offered by this particular client are in the seed and crop protection area. They're also heavily involved in biotechnology as well as genomic research projects. This company is a leader in crop protection and ranks third in total sales in the commercial agricultural seeds market. They have over 21,000 employees in 90 countries across the world. As far as the agency is concerned in this particular case, they had just taken over this particular account and they were looking for an airtight media plan that was going to support all of their decisions. What made it a little bit more challenging is that the agency didn't have a lot of exposure to working with community newspapers in the past, and they weren't necessarily sure what types of information we were going to be able to provide them with. Basically, this particular project started like a lot of them do, with the client supplying the agency with a list of target geographies that the agency was supposed to make some sense of. In this particular case, you can see what we were working with were a list of postal codes or communities that actually represented the area where the dealer that was to be supported by this particular project lived. Obviously, the process of matching postal codes and communities to community newspapers, or any media for that matter, can be particularly challenging at the best of times. I think this particular project does a pretty good job of crystallizing exactly the types of things that AdWest Marketing is able to do. So working with the initial list of information that was supplied by the client, what we wanted to do was come up with a common denominator. Basically, we wanted to convert everything to a workable geography that would give us a really good starting point to put things into perspective for the agency. So what we did in this case is took that information in disparate forms supplied to us by the agency, input it into our GIS system, and came out with that lowest common denominator. In this case, communities that were either initially supplied by the client or communities that were represented by a list of postal codes that didn't make an awful lot of sense when you looked at them on a spreadsheet. The next step, obviously, is to convert each one of those communities to the newspapers that circulate to that area. The part of the project that I think really did a good job of helping the agency understand exactly what they were working with was how we thematically mapped the dealer locations on a map of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, layering in the different newspaper options that they had for each one of those dealers. That map looked a little bit like what we're seeing here today. Basically, now the agency has the ability to look at each one of those dealer communities, identify which newspaper or which group of newspapers circulates to the target, and make some decisions based on this information. We could have added a number of different variables to this particular map to make even more value out of what we're looking at. Things like locations of farms, the number of farms covered by each one of these newspapers, circulation, overlap numbers, those types of things. The next step in the process, obviously, is to identify a final list of publications and use those as a starting point for the whole cost part of this project. So basically, the agency had identified the target communities based on the information that they were provided and the newspapers that served those communities, and we built an advertising proposal that fit the client's needs in this particular case. In summary, I think the agency was particularly pleased with the information that we were able to supply to them. It put them in a very good position with their client in terms of being able to justify the decisions that they'd made. And I think most importantly, it really opened the eyes of the agency to the types of information that AdWest Marketing is able to provide them when it comes to any of the accounts that they're working with. I think in years gone by, a lot of the challenges that agencies have had when it comes to working with community newspapers is not having the ability to draw a correlation between the data that they're working with and the data that is being supplied to them. That is one of the areas that AdWest has really turned its attention towards, and hopefully we're moving in the right direction.